So we are making progress. We've gotten to the fifth stop, which is how to schedule. This is more like the crux of today's webinar. Now, how to schedule? How do you effectively schedule? Most people are scheduling, but are they really doing it right? So, how do you prepare a proper schedule? So, the first thing you have to do is to identify the time you have available. This may seem simple that, oh, everyone has 24 hours, okay? But the keyword there is identify the time you have available. So you are by the time you identify the available time now, then you can move on to the second step. The second step is block or schedule the essential actions or essential tasks you must carry out to succeed. So I'm assuming that most of the people here are believers, and your spiritual life is of paramount importance, is so important to you. So you know that spiritual growth is so essential. So tasks that are associated with spiritual growth, reading the word of God, fellowship time with other believers, prayer time, these are things you want to blocking into your time. So let's say you wake up, like the former example I get, you wake up by 5:30 or 6 a.m. So you want to block in 6 a.m. to 6:30 or 7 a.m., whatever be the time, to as your devotion time. That is the time where you recharge yourself spiritually. Then apart from that, you have your academic life, and all these things has to be taken into consideration. So what are the essential things? This is the time I go for lectures. This is the time I go for classes. If you're taking online classes, maybe your school is virtual now. This is the time we do virtual. Maybe 8 a.m. to maybe 2 p.m. is when you do your class. So these are things you want to consider, essential tasks that you need to succeed in your spiritual life, in your academic life, and in your business life too. So you have to take in all those things into consideration and block them in the calendar. Then the third is very similar to the second. Schedule high priority activities first. Spiritual growth really matters. So activities that are related to spiritual growth should also be of top priority to you. So your prayer time, your study of the word time, these are actually non-negotiables. So you block them in, schedule them. If you have like your fellowship time with other believers, these are things you want to block. Then you can now build other things around them. Okay. And what are other high priority activities for you? Your academics, your studies, lecture time is actually a high priority time. You also want to fit that in. That is not the time to make social visits and visit other people. So by the time you're putting all these things in place, or like using that block system, you would discover that, oh, your days, your weeks are beginning to become more structured, and it will even get to a point that you have a mental picture of what your week looks like. That way you don't spend time wondering, what should I be doing next? What should I be doing next by this time? And you're more balanced. You're a more balanced person. So if you take these steps, you'll find that it will be easy for you to attain balance. Then the next is to schedule contingency time. This is actually a mistake. I'm going to cover this among the pitfall. Contingency time means that you make allowance to handle unpredictable events or interruption. Don't make the schedule back to back full. You should have like buffer hours or buffer period to allow for let's say if something spills into another, that way it doesn't disrupt the entire schedule. So schedule contingency time, schedule the activities that address other personal goals. So while some things may not be like very high priority, but they also work towards achieving your goals, so those activities too can now come in. Remember, you started with essential and high priority activities first, then you created contingency time, and now you are looking at other activities that address your other personal goals. You want to look at social calls, relationships with others. These are things that you also have to consider, time to visit others and all that. Then Very important, take time to analyze your activities. From time to time, you have to, in as much as you do this schedule and you have put in your essential tasks, your high priority tasks, you've created contingency time and all these activities you have scheduled, you have to take time to analyze your activities. Now, identify those tasks that can be delegated or outsourced or completely removed. Maybe something is not really meeting any goal again. There's no point in leaving it in your schedule and it's choking your time. It's not really contributing to any achievement, like any academic, spiritual, or even a financial goal, and that thing is just there in your calendar taking up time. So such things can be cut out, and the only way we can identify those things is when we take time to analyze our schedules, our activities, and decide on what can be given to someone else to do and something that can be cut off altogether. So that is how to schedule. So in the next part, I'm going to cover how the pitfalls to avoid when scheduling. So if you have any question on this, how to schedule, I'll be glad to take your questions in the group area.